Sir, I didn't use yours, no, sir. This one I didn't use user ID.
Okay, you are using some other, is it?
Yes, sir.
It is showing like this. Okay, I have to enter other details, right? To start from variable open. Okay, yesterday we saw this EHS CBER transaction code in which we were able to create a consultations. Different types of consultations we can create, whichever we are planning to provide as a service to the employees. So standard wise, see, these are the examples. These are some of the consultation types given by SAP. Now again, it depends on companies. Some companies give you additional consultation types. They can send the employees for oncological consultation, orthopedic consultation, gynecology consultation. There are different types of consultations. So if at all the client wants you to create a new consultation type, you can create here. Okay, either you can use EHS CBER transaction code to create this consultation types, or what is the alternative method? Alternatively, which one can we use?
SPRO path.
Yeah, we can use SPRO. Normally it is used by the consultants, like I told you. But if you want to use it, you can use SPRO as well. But it takes a lot of time. You have to follow a path and then you can create. But still, even that is available. So this end user, especially for a company, if they want to use, they have been given a direct transaction code. So instead of going through SPRO, they can use the transaction code. Or if these consultation types are being created by the consultant, then they can use SPRO. So both of these options are available. So last time we saw how you can create this. Very simple. You just have to enter some name, consultation type name or number, and then you have to give the description as to what type of consultation it is. Okay, for example, like this you can create. I am creating here one, but if you want, you can create any number of them. This is one consultation type, right? So this is EHS CBER transaction. Give me 1 second. Next, apart from that, there is one more consultation type, a transaction code, which is used to customize, I think, examination types. Just give me a second. The transaction code is EHS CT. Diagnosis types. EHS CT is the transaction code for, again, customizing diagnosis types. They are fixed. Anyways, SAP has given all the different types of diagnosis types, like critical diagnosis, long-time diagnosis, middle time, and short-time diagnosis. But apart from that, if there is any new diagnosis type you want to create, we can create that. So here, critical diagnosis means all those kind of injuries which are very severe in nature, where you have to immediately start the treatment. That kind of medical related issues, we call it as critical diagnosis. Long time diagnosis can be any medical condition which requires a long time for the employee to recover, like for example cancer, or maybe any such related occupational illness which takes lot of time, like number of years to recover from that. We can put it under the long time diagnosis. Middle time diagnosis means those medical issues which are going to take some months of time to recover completely. can be put under middle time diagnosis. Like for example, fracture. If there is a fracture, it takes at least 2 to 3 months, right, to recover completely and to come back to work. So such kind of a occupational injury, you can put it under middle time diagnosis. Or short time diagnosis can be like fevers or any short term occupational illness that you can put under short time diagnosis. So these are standard. We don't have to add anything new, because according to me, these are the maximum number of diagnosis types that we have. But yes, if you want to add, or if the client wants to add any new diagnosis type, it is possible. Like for example, let me add one more. I'll add one more as an example, but not required. Okay, emergency diagnosis type. Right, like that you can create. If at all you need, you can create. But otherwise, these 4 are standard type. You don't have to add any new type. Right, so again, the same thing you can go through SPR also. You can customize this data through SPRO, or here they have given this transaction code EHS CDCT, using which you can customize this diagnosis types. Okay guys, clear so far? First we saw EHS CBER for creating consultation types, and now some background noise. Can you please put yourself on mute? Next transaction code we have seen EHS CDCT for creating diagnosis types. So these are 2 customizing transaction codes. Next, let's move on to the business partners we have discussed in the last class. There are 4 business partners in occupational health. Like we have laboratory here. Laboratory, we'll see how to create a laboratory, and by default it is the same data that you can see even in the external company or the health center. So first we'll see about the laboratory, then I will make a short comparison. So if you are able to create a laboratory, it is actually the same data applicable for other business partners. So to create a laboratory, as you know, we use transaction code EHSBP 41. We have to use transaction code EHSBP 41. What happened? I'm trying to add, but it's not happening. Okay, anyway, so this is the initial screen of laboratory. Okay, where you can create this business partner called laboratory, and we can save the data. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, she joined. Laboratory using transaction code EHSBP 41. So there are many tabs in this. Not all tabs are mandatory, but here the mandatory tabs are of course address tab, address overview, then identification, control, status tab. These are the mandatory tabs where you have to maintain the data. So as you know, laboratory is a contractor or a business partner. So if you are going to enter into agreement with one of the laboratory, then you have to maintain their data. There will be a vendor list. Vendor data will also be there in the FICO module, as well as in the other modules wherever you need the data of that vendor. But here in EHS also we have to create this vendor related data, because these are directly related to our occupational health. So therefore we have to create the details about this laboratory. For example, let's create one laboratory, and we'll save the data, and we'll see how and what data we need to add for this business partner. So first and foremost, you have to enter the name of the business partner or laboratory. For example, Apollo Labs Private Limited. And what is salutation? Salutation we put normally as MS. Any company, if we are creating any company or non-human entity, we put the salutation as MS. Okay, so this is the name of the laboratory and this is the salutation. Next, if you come down, we have search terms. Search term means tomorrow if you want to search this laboratory, if you don't remember the name, okay, or if you have forgotten the name or the business partner number, in such a case, you can search according to the keywords. So here we can add two keywords, like for example, Apollo can be one search term, and second I will put it as labs. Okay, two search terms. Either you can use Apollo or labs, or in some cases you can use both of these search terms and you can search the data. Right? These are called as search terms, or they are like keywords. Next, maintain the complete address for this business partner. Again, as an example, postal code. Okay, country, it is India. Either you can directly enter or you can go to the list of options, and from there also you can select the country key. So directly also you can enter. Then we have region. Within India, in which particular state do we have this laboratory? That state region code we can add. Okay, for example like this. And then we have to add PO box number. See here there are some important data we have to maintain, or mandatory data. We cannot miss that. One of that mandatory data is the PO box number. If you don't add the PO box number, it will show error message and then again you have to create. Right? So PO box number definitely we have to add. Let's see what will happen if I don't add the PO box number. Then again, after PO box number, we have two postal code here. One is a normal postal code they have given, another is a company postal code. Why they have given two different postal code here? What is a company postal code?
One is for company and one is for plant, I guess.
Plant, we are not creating plant, no.
Company
With
postal
some
code may be
plant
the postal
specific.
code of headquarter of the company, and postal code is the branch of that lab
Yeah,
in your particular city.
yeah, absolutely. See, some laboratories will be having multiple branches. They may be operating in multiple cities also, right? In Bangalore, in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Pune, in Chennai, in Hyderabad. Like that, there will be multiple branches. Like SRL Diagnostics, if you know, they are having branches almost in all the metro cities, also in Tier 2 cities. So it is not that the laboratory will be at one place. They may be having multiple branches. So in that case, if there are multiple branches, definitely you need a head office or you need a corporate office from where they will control the other branches. So therefore, they have given company postal code separately. Along with that, they have given the postal code. Normally, postal code will be the same. What we have entered here, it will be the same postal code. Right? So you can add either that or company postal code, but both you cannot add. See, the option is either you add a PO box number or you add a postal code. Okay, both, all the three data you cannot enter. Again, we'll see that what will happen. Now, company postal code I am going to create 11000035, for example. Again, you should be careful how many digits you are adding to the pin code. It should be only 6 digits. If by mistake if you are adding more than 6 digits, that will also be an error. Okay, let's see that. I will press enter. Now see what happens. It will show that either you can add postal code or company postal code. Both you cannot add. So let me remove one of the data here. Postal code I will remove. And now again press enter. see what happens. Some other error will come. Company postal code must have the length 6. So anywhere you go, the postal code will always be 6. So that is the error. Again, if you press enter, it is saying that the PO box number is a required field. It is a mandatory data. So for PO box, we have to add a PO box number. So it can be something like this. It will be also 6 digits. You can add the PO box number. Wherever your post office box is located, that number we have to maintain. Okay, so now the data will be correct. Let's go down and maintain some of the data under communication. Communication, normally we use English, especially if it is a official communication, we use English. Then add the telephone number of that particular laboratory. Mobile number is not required. Fax also I leave it. And then add the email address. So email address may be something like this. apollolabs.com, info@apollolabs.com. This is the standard email address. Now further, standard communication method. So whenever you have to communicate with this laboratory, how are you going to communicate? Are you going to call them or are you going to send an email? Exactly what method are you going to use for communication? So that also we have to maintain here. Normally we send an email. All the official communications happen through email. So you can add that. Data line and telebox are other communication methods which we normally don't use nowadays. Either we use telephone number or email address. Alright, so the other two, data line and telebox communication methods, are not used nowadays. Then you can add a comment, a small comment for this laboratory. Like you can say that this is a new laboratory, or you can say this is a new business partner. Okay, this is a new business partner. You can add a comment like that. Then again press enter and go to the second tab. So the first tab is all about maintaining the communication details about that laboratory, like the address, name of the laboratory and other communication details. Next, go to address overview tab. What is an address overview tab? This is where you can maintain multiple addresses. So for the same laboratory, I told you that if they are having multiple branches, we can maintain the address of the head office, and also we can maintain the address of the laboratory branch. So in the address overview tab, already whatever address we have created in the first tab, it is coming by default. This is the address of the laboratory branch. Now let's assume you also want to maintain the address of the corporate office or the head office. So that also you can create and manage in your address overview. So to do that, you can select what type of address you are creating. You can go down and select what type of address you are creating. Either it is a business address or it can be a company address, okay, or it can be delivery address. There are different types of addresses. So let's say if you are going to maintain the head office address, then company address you can select and then you can click on create. Now what will happen? Another screen will open where you can maintain the address of that corporate office. So again, same details. You have to maintain the complete address of that head office. Okay, double. New Delhi. Yeah. Right, and then PO box number and all if you want. Here also it is mandatory, so let me maintain some PO box number and company postal code.
How we will get this PO box number?
PO box number, the vendor with whom you are going to have a contract, they will give you the information. Like let's say in your company L&T, if they want to work with SRL diagnostics, so what will happen? They will contact that SRL diagnostics and they will have a discussion, business discussion. And if all the terms and conditions are met, then they will say, okay, we are going to send our employees to SRL diagnostics. But before you can send your employees, you have to create the data in the system, right? You have to
Hmm.
collect their bank account details, their licenses, you have to do the due diligence, and then they will provide all the data, including PO box number. You don't have to go and find somewhere. The contractor with whom you are going to work, they will give you all this information. Okay, so you have to collect from them and you can maintain it.
In absence of means PO box number, can we write 0 and it will show error,
No,
or we?
it will show error, yeah.
Okay.
Because even for PO box number, there is a particular number of digits you have to maintain. But we can try. I didn't try all that. I didn't experiment. But let's see. I will put 1 here, or maybe I will put 0. Let's see what will happen. Okay, telephone number. This is the STD code. Okay. Standard apollolabs.com. Okay, this is the email address. And let me add the standard communication method again as email. And here I will add it is a corporate address. Yeah. Now let me try to save. Let's see if it will show any error or not. No, it did not show. So I think you can add 0 or 1 single digit is also fine for a PO box number. But for PIN code, we have seen that practically you have to enter only 6 digits. It cannot be more or it cannot be less than that.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have two addresses here. One is created for the laboratory branch, and second we have created the address for the corporate office. So these are the address and address overview tabs. After having created this basic information, next let's go to the third tab called identification. What is an identification tab? This is where we can maintain the legal data or legal information about that laboratory. The legal data, like for example, whether it's a public limited company or a private company, or do they have any contract with any government agencies, like that, we can maintain some additional data. So this is about the legal information pertaining to that laboratory. So let's create that. Legal form is nothing but whether it's a private company or a joint stock company or a limited company. So you can choose any of these options. Legal entity means, again, do they have tie up with any other government bodies, like with the post officers, or do they have any laboratory set up on a railway? Is there any tie with the railway department? So these are called as legal entity. Now, most of the laboratories are operated privately. They are set up on a private property, and not all are limited companies. So in such a case, you can select private property as the legal entity. Next, date founded. From which date is this laboratory operational? You can add that date. Again, all this data you have to collect. We don't know. By default, we will never know about this information. So we'll contact that laboratory and we'll collect the information pertaining to that. Let's say it was started in 2023, for example. 2023. Next, we have another date called as liquidation date. Do you know what is the meaning of liquidation date? What is a liquidation date? A liquidation date is a date when, see, sometimes what happens, a bigger corporate or a bigger company is going to purchase the smaller company. So in the competition, what happens is one company will take over or they will purchase another company. If it is having the same business which they are operating, in order to reduce the competition, they will take over or they will do the merge, acquisition will happen. So if at all the laboratory that we are creating, if it was uh, purchased by another big organization, then we can add the liquidation date. It is the date when this particular laboratory was taken over by another organization. That is called as a liquidation date. Because from that date, whatever was the old name of the laboratory, it may cease to exist. Recently, SRL Diagnostics, it has been renamed to, I think, Agilus Laboratory or something like that. Earlier, we used to call it as SRL Diagnostics. Now that name is gone. Maybe some other organization may have purchased that company, quite possible. Therefore, they are renaming that brand. Instead of calling it as SRL, now they have given a different name. So, that date on which this transaction happens is called as a liquidation date. So, your company, if it is merged with another big company like LTI Mindtree, Mindtree was a separate company before. It was an IT company, but it was a separate entity. But L&T actually acquired that company. So, therefore, now both companies are merged and we call it as a LTI Mindtree. So something similar may happen in any business, including the laboratory. If any laboratory is currently operating, some organization may overtake that, and therefore we can say that is the liquidation of that organization. But it is not applicable for all the companies. Some companies which have underwent merger or acquisition, for them we have to maintain the liquidation date. Right? So that's a liquidation date. Next, international location number 1 and international location number 2. So what do we have to maintain here? We have to enter the PIN code number of those locations in which country this laboratory is operating. Now suppose if the organization is operating in more than one country, let's say this Apollo Labs which I am creating, it is operating not only in India but also operating in Singapore, for example. And also it is operating in Dubai. So what we can do here is we can maintain the PIN code number of both of those locations. And only international, by the way. That is why they have given here international location 1 and international location 2. If it is only in India, then in address overview tab we can maintain, no problem. But only for international locations, we have to maintain the PIN code of that location. That is called as a location number 1 and location number 2. Right? So some companies operate in multiple countries, but most of the laboratories operate locally in the Indian market. In such a case, you don't have to add this data, you can leave it blank. Next, control tab. In control tab, we have to maintain some data like, which are the SAP users who can see this laboratory related information. Again, there are 4 options in this. Yeah, there are 3 options: visibility 0, visibility 1 and visibility 2. If you want to allow any SAP user to have full access to this laboratory information, then you can select this option, visibility 0. So what happens? Anybody who is opening this laboratory detail, they can see all the data. Like they can also see their legal information, they can see their bank account details, because it is become unrestricted. So under unrestricted option, any SAP user can open the laboratory detail and they can see all the information under unrestricted. But if you keep restricted, the second option is restricted. Under restricted option, they can see only some limited information about that laboratory. Like for example, their contact information, okay, and their legal information. The payment transactions or the bank account details of that laboratory and all will not be visible. Only limited number of data they can check, like address or their legal information, and not more than that. That is not restricted, unrestricted, it is a restricted option, 001. Similarly, we have one more option, third option, called as very restricted. In very restricted option, the SAP user can only see the contact information about that laboratory. They cannot see the legal information, and also they cannot see the bank account details and other payment related transactions. So these three options are given. Depending on what authorization you want to maintain, you can select that particular option. Normally they keep it as visibility 1, so that at least partial information SAP users can see. They will not keep it as visibility 0, neither they will keep a very restricted option. Next we have print format. So any information related to this laboratory, if you want to print, there are two options for that. One, you can print the information in Braille language, and second, you can print in large print. Do you know what is Braille? What is Braille or Braille language, we call sometimes? Braille language is the language of the deaf and dumb people, right? Those who cannot hear and those who cannot speak. It is their language. So suppose any laboratory information if you want to print, and if you have any employees who are like handicapped, so for them you can print the information in the Braille language. So that one additional option they have given called Braille. Or if you want to print the information just in the English language, you can select the second option called large print. So print format is normal. Either you can print this information in the English language or you can print it in the Braille language. Next, we have third option called data origin. Data origin means all this data that I am creating for this laboratory, from where did I get that data? I am actually mentioning that it's a private limited company. I have put the data of origin and what is the legal status of that company. Those details I have maintained. But from where did I get that data? What is the data origin? So here there are two important options you can keep in mind. One is called legacy data, and second one is transfer of legacy data from legacy system 2. Any idea what is a legacy data? When you hear this word legacy data, what is the meaning of this?
It is a data from non-SAP system.
Yeah, from a non-SAP system, or in that case even this you can call it as a non-SAP system, no? Transfer of legacy data from legacy system 2. Yeah, even this can be called like that. See, mainly legacy data can be either from the physical registers or from some any hard copies or documents, or this legacy data can be from very simple tools like MS Excel or MS Word, such kind of sources. Okay, legacy data. Or if you are getting this laboratory information from another software, let's say they were using Enablon or Oracle or some other ERP software before. Now they want to use SAP. So in such a case, when you are actually migrating the data from an older software into SAP, we call it as transfer of legacy data from legacy system 2. From one software to another software, when we are migrating the data, at that time we have to select this option called transfer of legacy data. Or if we are looking at a hard copy or any document and we are creating this data, we can put it as legacy data, or even from a MS Excel sheet, if you are taking the information, that is also a legacy data. Mainly these two options we use. This purchased address data set, we don't use it. Maybe they have given as an option. And this also, treasury partner parallel operation, we never use these options. Maybe additionally they have given two more options, but normally either we use legacy data or transfer of legacy data from legacy system 2. Right, so that is the source of my data. From there I am getting the information which I am creating in the laboratory. Okay guys, clear so far?
Yes.
Okay, we are maintaining the legacy data here as a data origin. Now, further, again, there are so many other tabs we have to fill. Here below, we have something called as notes, where you can add a comment, or if you want to maintain some remark, you can add. For example, under credit management, I am going to maintain a note that the credit period is for 60 days. If you have worked in a corporate office, you will understand. What is a credit period? Do you know? What is a credit period?
Means after
Like
completion of work, the amount will be disbursed in 60 days.
Yeah, okay. Yes, it is like that. See, the payment to the vendor will happen after 60 days from the date of invoice submission. So, if today they give the invoice, right? So, from 12th of June, we have 2 more months time or 60 days within which we can make the payment. That is called as a credit period. Normally, all the big MNC companies, that is how they operate. They don't make the payment to the vendors immediately. They will take time depending on the invoice value. Sometimes if the invoice value is very less, like 8,000 or 10,000 or up to even 15,000, because the invoice value is less, it will be completed within 1 week. You don't have to wait for 2 months. Because the invoice value is so low, they will make the payment within 1 week. But there are other invoices which may exceed the value more than 1 lakh, or sometimes it may exceed even 3 lakhs. For such a huge amount of invoices, we have to take some time. So therefore, before taking the services itself, we will very clearly tell them the terms of payment, that we are going to make the payment within 60 days from the date of invoice. Right? That is called as a credit period. So I am just maintaining one note here. I am saying that all the payments to the laboratory will be done within 60 days. That is the credit period. If you want, you can maintain, but again, it's not mandatory. Next tab is called payment transaction tab. We don't maintain that because here we have to maintain all the bank related information. We have to collect the account details from the vendor and we have to create the data. So this will be completed by the finance department. So payment transaction tab they have given here, but this data we don't have to maintain. It will be created by the finance team. Okay, next we have status tab. So what is a status tab? Again, there are some very important options here in status tab. One is the archiving flag. What is this archiving flag? And why do we need the archiving flag? Archiving means what is archiving? Archive.
in SAP, some older data get archived.
Yeah.
So maybe this is related to that. Like means after
Yes.
some means old data will get archived.
Yes. Yes. See, archiving means any business transaction done in the company will be retained for some number of years. We call it as a data retention policy. Every company will have that. Data retention policy means any kind of business transaction that takes place within the company, the data has to be stored for a period of 5 years or sometimes 10 years. Up to 10 years, you cannot delete any records. You cannot destroy any document. Because whenever a requirement comes during the audit, we should be able to produce that document. So therefore, we have to archive all the data. Archiving is nothing but saving the data for at least 5 years to 10 years of time. So because we are creating a laboratory, they are the vendor and we may have to carry out so many business transactions with them. All the data you want to archive. That is why we have given this option called archiving flag. By selecting this option, we are telling the SAP system we need to archive the data related to this laboratory. That is called as a archiving flag. It depends for how many years you want to retain the data. Depending on company policy, it can be 5 years to 10 years. Next, after that, we have two more options below called central block and not released. So what is the central block? Central block means, see, sometimes if there is any kind of uh, false invoices, or if they are doing any malpractice, lot of times vendor do this. If 10 employees are going for the medical checkup, they may send you the invoice for 15 people. They may overcharge the company. All these are considered as malpractice. So if you come to know that such a thing is happening, there is a malpractice from the vendor, you can block all the transactions or all the payments to be done to that particular vendor. So by selecting the option central block, you can block all kind of transactions done with that business partner, mainly the financial transactions. So once it is blocked, the finance department cannot make the payment to that particular vendor until and unless you do the investigation, you see what went wrong, whether it was by mistake or all. We have to do the investigation and then we can make the payment. Until then, it will be blocked. Right? Mainly it is used when there is a some kind of, if you doubt that they were doing extra charging to the company. Okay? In such a case, you can use the option central block. Similarly, we have another option called not released. When do you use this option not released? Here, before you can take the services from a vendor, they do something called as a due diligence. Again, all these are corporate terms. Some of you may know, or maybe you don't know. There is something called as a due diligence. So before you take the services from any vendor, we have to check their legal status. We have to check their licenses. We have to check their premises. We have to do the audit, right? And only then we can take the services from them. So until and unless there is no clearance given by the legal team, we cannot actually take the services from the vendor, right? Because you see, this is about the laboratory. So they need to have a valid license, they need to have a proper setup, all the equipment should be there, and they should have a good name in the market. All these things somebody has to go and check. So it will be mainly either the legal department in the company or the compliance department. They will go and check for all these legal details. And if they find that the laboratory is good, we can work with them, then they will issue no restrictions, and then you can directly work with the laboratory. But until then, until you don't get the clearance, we have to keep them under not released status. Not released means we are still doing the due diligence for that laboratory. We have not got the clearance. So until we get the clearance, it will be put on hold. So that option is called not released. Central block we use when already we are working with the vendor, and not released option we use when we are actually going to hire a new contractor, and before we have any agreement we have to do the due diligence. So during that period you cannot send the employees to that particular laboratory because we have put it on hold. So therefore we have to select this option called not released. And during this period, whether you are allowed to contact that laboratory or not, some companies will say you can contact, no problem, or some companies will say until and unless they are not cleared, you should not contact. So therefore SAP has given all the three options. Either you can contact, it is allowed to contact the laboratory, or it is not allowed to contact the laboratory, or you can first check for the permissions and then you can contact. Because if they are blocked for some reason, then there are some restrictions. The employee should not contact that laboratory until all the investigation is done. We should not contact. Some companies have this very rigid rule. Otherwise, some companies will say no problem, if you have to communicate something, you can communicate with the laboratory, it is allowed. So which option is applicable? You have to check with the legal team, and then we have to select one of the options. Either it is allowed to communicate with them or not allowed, or first you can check the permission and then you can communicate. So these three options they have given for contact. Okay, understood this part especially. This is little difficult to understand. Okay, central block and
Sir,
not
can you
released.
please explain once not release? Exactly.
Yeah, not released actually. See, before you hire any contractor, okay, you cannot blindly take services from anybody, right? Especially if it is a big MNC company, they have to do background verification. Just like how they do verification for the employees, even before working with a contractor, you have to do the background verification. So what will you do the verification? It will be the licenses you have to check. Okay, you have to go and do the audit at their facility. You have to check whether they have all the latest equipments or not. You have to check whether they have any bad remark in the market. Okay, or what is their reputation in the market. All this background checking has to be done for the vendor. Right? So until then,
Mhm.
what you can do is you can select this option as not released and you can put it on hold. We are putting it on hold. Okay, yeah, we are going to work that contractor fine, but still we have to do all the due diligence process. We have to do the background verifications. Once that is completed, then we can remove this option not released. Until then, you have to keep it as not released itself. So during that period, when you have put them on hold, whether the employees from the company can contact that laboratory or not, that is put here in the contact. If they are allowed to contact the laboratory, then you can select the first option. But if at all they are not allowed, then second option has to be selected. But on some case-to-case basis, you have to check the permissions. If you are permitted, then you can contact that laboratory. So these three options are given for contact. Normally, it will be allowed because it's not a big deal. You can contact the laboratory. But if some companies are taking, this matter seriously, then you cannot contact the laboratory. So that contact option you have to select. Whether you are allowed to contact with them or not, you can choose from the options. Okay, so here we have archiving flag. If you want to retain all the old data, transaction data with the laboratory. Secondly, we can block any kind of financial transactions with the laboratory if you find that they had done some miscalculation or overcharging the company. Such kind of information if you have got, then you can block them and no financial transaction can happen between the company and the laboratory. Or the third option is not released. If you want to keep the laboratory on hold, or if you want to, let's say, first do the due diligence and then you want to work with the contractor, in that case also you can select as not released. But in any of these cases, whether you are allowed to contact them, whether you can call them or whether you can send an email to them, that is controlled here in the contact. If you have the option not allowed or disallowed, then you are not supposed to contact the laboratory, right? Or if it is allowed, then yeah, you can send emails or you can call them. Communication is allowed. So that you have to select here in the lock option. Okay, clear? Archiving flag and lock options. Next we have two more. One is where use list. Do you know what is this option, where use list? Where use list will tell you this contractor which I am creating, no, this laboratory. If at all the same contractor details or vendor details, if we have created in another module, it will show where it has been created. For example, let's say if the same vendor detail Apollo Labs is present in FICO module, it will show here. It will show that the same laboratory or vendor information is available in FICO module, or if it is present in MM module, then also it will show. So where use list is mainly used to check where apart from EHS module they are using this contractor detail, right? So that you can find from the where use list. And then the last tab is a cost center tab. This we use because when we want to spend the money, we have to assign a particular cost center. It is from that department they are going to spend the money. So from which department the money has to be spent for this laboratory, we can add the cost center here. Again, this will be created by the accounts people. Cost center assignment will be done by the accounts people. Like if we are sending some employees for medical checkup, who will bear the cost? From where should we spend the money? so that every department will have a cost center. If HR department is responsible for this laboratory related activity, then it will go from the HR department and cost center will be assigned to the HR. Or if EHS department has to bear the cost of all the medical checkups, then the cost center will be assigned to the EHS department. So cost center basically means from where are we going to spend the money for all these medical checkups in this laboratory. So we don't decide that, it will be again assigned by the accounts people, right? So there are many tabs. Main tabs are address, because this will give you the communication details about that laboratory. Then address overview tab, where you can maintain multiple addresses. Then we have identification tab that will give you the legal information about that laboratory, whether it's a private company or a public limited company, or do they have any kind of collaboration with the government departments, or whether the laboratory is present on a private property. All that information you will find in the identification tab. Next we have control tab, where you can control who can see the data of this laboratory and how much data they can see. There are three options in this: visibility 0, that is unrestricted. Sorry, it is 0 or what? Let me check. Yeah, it is 0 for unrestricted access. So any SAP user can see every information about that laboratory, including their financial data, their legal information, contact information, everything. But in the visibility 1, you can restrict. They can see only a part of the data, like their communication details and legal status. Under very restricted option, any person displaying this laboratory, he will be only able to see the details like their communication details. So these three options are given in the authorization group. And of course, yeah, we have to maintain from where we are getting all this information about the laboratory under data origin. It can either be the legacy data from Excel sheet or from any hard documents, hard copies, or it can be from any other software. Lot of times data migration will happen. This is also one kind of a SAP project, data migration. So instead of using Oracle software, now if you are planning to use SAP, then the data will be transferred from Oracle software to SAP software. That is called as a data migration. So this laboratory data, if at all you are transferring from another software, then we have to select the option transfer of legacy data from legacy system to. Right? So this is about the control tab. Then payment transactions, I told you, bank related information, the bank account details of the vendor, it will be created by the finance team. We don't have to create any data. Next important tab is status tab. Status tab will allow you to archive all the business transactions done with the laboratory by selecting the archiving flag. Or you can even block any kind of transactions done with this laboratory by selecting the central block. See, this is only you are supposed to use when you see that there is some kind of malpractice happening. Okay, because once you select the central block option, the finance team cannot make the payment to that laboratory. So before you block, you have to be sure. So until the investigation is completed, you can hold all the transactions. Right? So for that we use central block. And not released option is especially when you are going to have a contract with the laboratory, you have to do the background verification of that laboratory. Like their licenses, we have to audit their premises, we have to check what equipments we have and what is their name in the market. So this background verification, until it is completed, you have to keep it as not released, so that you don't send your employees to that laboratory until we get the clearance. Right? So during this period, whether you are allowed or not allowed, that you can check here in the contact option. Sometimes they will allow you to contact, but at other times they will not allow. Right? So these are the important tabs. Where use list will tell you where other than our SAP EHS, in which other module they are using this business partner. And cost center will give you from which department the money will be spent. Because every time you send the employees for medical checkup, you have to make the payment to the vendor. So who has to pay that money? From which department it has to be spent? That will be decided by the cost center. Either it is HR department or EHS department, we have to add a cost center here. Right? So these details we have to maintain in our laboratory. After adding all these details, we can click on save. Okay, once you click on save, a business partner number will be automatically assigned. Okay, a number will be automatically assigned. See, some servers may not work. Try to create this laboratory, but in some servers it will not work. At the end, it will show an error message, and whatever data you have created, no, everything will be deleted. So please check before you enter all the details, just add the address tab. Okay, only add this information and try to save the data. Because later, after completing all this data, if you try to save, it may not work. So check once before you create a laboratory. Okay, so just fill the address tab, try to save the data. If it is not having any issue, it will save and a number will be given like this, business partner number. That means the server is working fine and you should be able to create a laboratory. Okay, so this is the process how you can create a laboratory, which is our first business partner.
Okay, sir, means complete cycle means what is the complete cycle of occupational health and safety means from where you start. So maybe you can tell this after completing this like
Cycle
terms
means I
which may
didn't
have been explained.
understand. What cycle you mean?
Complete cycle means like in purchasing, P2P cycle is procure to pay, where a good receipt, uh, sorry, purchase order, good receipt, invoice like that, complete cycle. So maybe is occupational health and safety having a complete cycle.
There is nothing like that. P2P and all fine because there is a lot of dependency on multiple modules. There we have, but still let me check because according to me, what I have seen so far, we don't have any
Complete
cycle
cycle
logic.
means I mean to say like
Hmm.
what it means the term that you have explained now,
Yeah.
laboratory